watch what happens. Because what happens next is what happens to all of us. And for many of us is what stops us, right? Now watch what I'm talking about, because this may be you. You may be in this predicament right here and right now as you're watching this. And I need you to see what David did that you might put into effect in your life so you don't stop the promises of God that he has spoken over. Watch. When Eliab, David's oldest brother, you know, the one that was passed over to be anointed king. Nah, you ain't the one, Eliab. Is there another? Oh, David? Yeah, that's the one. I'm going to anoint him king. So Eliab, he just pissed here, right? He's not the one chosen. And he coming up against baby brother because he's the only one that knows who David really is. Don't you understand? There ain't another man in this army, on this field, save these brothers, that knows who David really is. No one. They were the only ones present when David was anointed by Samuel, king of Israel, right? And here he comes against the promises of God that has been put in the heart of baby brother. Eliab rises up like a big brother always does. You know how it works. David's oldest brother heard him speaking with the men. He burned with anger at him and asked, "Why have you come down here? And with whom did you leave these few sheep in the wilderness? I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. You came down only to watch the battle." Now look at this. You see the challenge that Eliab just threw on David? He said, "I know how evil you are and how conceited your heart is." When in fact, when Samuel was coming to anoint him, the oldest brother came through and he's like, "Ooh, he a good-looking, handsome man, taller than most. Like, surely this is the one God has chosen." And God said what to Samuel? "I don't look at the outside appearance, but at a man's heart. He ain't the one." And then the rest of the brothers passed by until David came. And then God said, "Rise and anoint him. He's the one." Why? Because it ain't about his looks. It ain't about his appearance. It's about his heart. And you got big brother coming straight up against what God said. David got a good heart, a heart after me. Eliab's like, "Now you got a wicked, conceited heart." There to battle. That's the real battle that fought before the real battle was fought. Do you understand? He could never face Goliath if he couldn't get past big brother. And you will never face the promises of your God unless you can get past those who come against you. Come against the promises of God. Come on what he put against your heart. Most men back up and fail at this point as soon as they get challenged. And I'm just being real with you. Fear stops them. Someone saying they can't overrides God saying they can. And that may be you tonight. Listen to me, I know all about it. You think this has been easy getting here to where we at? I'm telling you, we have more struggles than you ever realize. Ain't nobody know what we've gone through except God and my wife. I promise you, the man behind the camera don't even understand the lows we've had to walk through to do what? Get this message out. But we ain't stopping because David was the example. We ain't stopping because he didn't stop. Big brother couldn't persuade little brother not to step up to that battle line. He did his best. He tried his hardest. But David believed God over anybody else. Naysayers couldn't do it. He kept his eyes on the prize. And because of that, he got the prize. And I'm telling some of you today, you better start looking where you headed. Because if you don't, you will fall short. Because where your eyes go, your life will follow. And if you believe a man over your God, you're going to get what the man said versus what your God has promised. And I want you, baby, I want you to take hold of the full promises of God. Because he is so good and he is so gracious that he will bring every one of them to pass. He is faithful and true. And his promises are like silver refined 7 times. They can be counted on. They appear. So listen to me. Let me put this in context in my life. We come against some people that they ain't like what we do or how we do it. They tell us we ain't meant for this because we don't talk like everyone else talks, because we don't preach like a normal preacher preaches. Why are we even in this game, they say. And we took some knocks and some lumps, but we don't let them override what God has promised. He says you're going to summon nations. Guess what we're going for? Nations. If I stop when they say stop, God's promises never come to fulfillment in my life. And listen to me, they ain't even, like they just warm up for the battles that are really coming. Because when you open yourself up to the world, I promise you, is going to open themselves up to you. And you're going to see the real fights coming. We already seeing it. So here's what I want you to know. Like Eliab came against David, sometimes it will be your closest, well-meaning family and friends that come against you the hardest. like Peter to Jesus? Surely not. And Jesus had to say, get behind me, Satan, for you have the things of man in mind, not the things of God. He ain't mad at Peter for it, but he just knew he had to keep his eyes on the prize and not listen to the words of man over the words of his God, his Father. And the same is true for me and you. We can't quit. Because if we quit, guess who championed? Goliath, not David. Guess who became slaves? Israel, and not the Philistines. Guess whose lineage was in jeopardy? Mine and yours if you're a believer in Jesus. Because out of David, out of this king, comes our Messiah. So that's how important it is to believe God over anything and everyone else. I don't care if they're close to you. If God has spoken, you believe him. And even if you got to be the only one that believes him, you daggone believe him. How many thousands upon thousands of men here weren't willing to step up? David was the only one, and you may be the only one. But you daggone step up and do what God has called you to do.